For the Palatka Community Redevelopment Agency meeting on February 10th, 2025 at 5 p.m. And I'm calling this meeting to order, starting with an invocation. Pastor Mulberry, are you in Zoom land?
You do not see him, Mayor.
Okay. Can you give us, please, the invocation, Commissioner Davis?
I understand. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. God, we pray that as we convene this meeting, God, that you give us guidance and wisdom as we care for the city of Palatka and the citizens therein. God, we thank you for this day. We pray that you bless it and continue to guide and direct us as we make the best decisions for our city. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Commissioner Palatka, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Be happy to. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk, please.
Mayor Carrera,
Present.
Commissioner Davis,
Present.
Commissioner Campbell,
Present.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Borum, Commissioner Pelletier,
Here.
Commissioner Teresa Jackson.
Here.
We have quorum. Thank you. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes of December 9th, 2024?
Motion to approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. I'm going to open up the floor to general public comments, general discussions on the CRA. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we close public comment. On to regular business, presentation, discussion, gas lights in the South Historic District. Ms. Roach, or is it Ms. Odom? Who's? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. So this item is about the gas lamps in the South Historic District. So Ms. Roach, with the support of Commissioner Campbell, requested that the CRA discuss the following. Consideration of using CRA's South Historic District funds to cover necessary repairs to the lamps and ensure their lighting year round, as well as exploring solutions that do not burden local residents with costs that can be assumed by the city or the CRA. So a little background on this is that the South Historic District features 17 gas lamps that are recognized as a visual and historical element of the community. Currently, these gas lamps are only lit through the month of December, with funding sourced entirely from donations by residents. This practice was initiated following the secession of the city and the gas authority funding due to substantial costs involved. Subsequently, the South Historic District Neighborhood Association began funding the lighting around key holidays. And we did an assessment, and based on this staff analysis, we determined that based on the staff analysis, we've determined that quite a few of the lamps need replacements. Basically, the majority of them need some sort of replacement and improvements, and that there is a substantial cost associated with that, as well as the lighting and the maintenance and the repair of those. According to the Palatka Gas Authority, the current expense to light these lamps 365 days a year would be $1 per day per lamp at approximately $6,205 annually. However, factoring the necessary repairs and ongoing maintenance, the annual cost could exceed over $10,000. Replacing all the existing gas lamps would incur a cost of $5,120. Additionally, according to the Public Works Department, converting to electrical or solar lighting is costly due to there not being any electrical connection to the gas lamp sites. So Brett and I are here for questions, but I will let Cheryl speak on behalf of our item.
Yes, my name is Cheryl Roach, and I'm delighted to be here today. I've owned a home in the South Historic District for 8 years. When I purchased it in 2017, the lamps were lit, and the charm of them was one of the reasons that I bought in the neighborhood. They have been neglected, and somewhere along the line, they were dimmed. I have 2 displays. Kristen just gave an overview. Bottom line, what I'm trying to represent is exactly where they are located. And also the pictures show that there are 9 regulators at the base of the lamps and 8 regulators close to a house meter. This has been a bone of contention in the neighborhood. There are people that feel that they possibly could be charged when the regulator is on the house meter. And I will go ahead and allow Brett to answer any of the questions pertaining to that. I did have a slideshow up. I don't know if it's going to happen, so I'll go through everything very quickly. I have from the Palatka Daily News archives, today in history, on the 28th day in 1886, the Palatka gas works street lamps were lit for the first time. First slide speaks for itself. The existing lamps were not the first, but they are the last. Preserving them should be paramount for the future of the South Historic District. The next slide. It's an article from the Boston Scope. Boston is to switch their 2,800 gas lamps to LED. I won't go through the whole thing because of time. Bottom line, the neighborhood felt that they were not notified by the city. It's paramount that you do communicate with the neighborhood pertaining to any decisions made. And secondly, the cost of going to electric is not as green as they had thought. So it may not be the best way to go. Next slide, please. This is an article from the historic Indian Village in Detroit. This was a neighborhood that went about on their own to install gas lamps, the HOA, after upheaval in the 70s. In total, 258 were installed. In the 2000s, only 100 of them were still working. And the city said, you need to clean these up. They were not getting any more assistance from the gas authority because it had merged and switched companies. And they are still working on trying to maintain the lamps. But the bottom line in this is that the HOA shouldn't be in the business of maintaining street lamps in our neighborhood. And lastly, I wanted to speak pertaining to the gas lights in the French Quarter. They have a very rich history in New Orleans. They are being actively preserved, cherished, and they are more than just a source of light. The gas lamps of the French Quarter play a crucial part in the shaping the overall experience of this iconic neighborhood. Their soft flickering illumination complements the intricate architecture, creating a visual harmony that transports visitors back in time. So the final slide shows how New Orleans has integrated their gas lamps as part of the city's unique identity. My hope is that the commission will embrace the same philosophy. In closing, the funding is in the South Historic TIF CRA fund. There was a large surplus from last year that should be addressed. At this point, I will answer any questions, and also both Kristen and Brett are here.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. And just for the record, Commissioner Borum has
Mhm.
arrived.
It was about 5:05.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Roach? Or,
No, I just want to just thank her for bringing that forward to the board in terms of the lights, and it not only serves the historical piece, but also the safety aspect and everything else. So just coming across the bridge, looking at those lights, it really enhanced the city quite a bit.
Yes, they do. And they've been dim for way too long. And there certainly is funding in the CRA, specifically in the South Historic District, that should be utilized, and it would tremendously lift the neighborhood.
Right. We do
In many
have
ways.
funding. Yes, we do
Yes.
have funding. that need to
It
be
could
spent.
take bright to blight to the literal state, if we could re-illuminate those lights.
Commissioner Campbell, do you have anything?
Yes, I was one of the ones who asked that this be placed on the agenda. And I think we should strongly consider the not only the ambiance, but if that's an aspect of what makes that particular neighborhood, I think we strongly should consider. We give money to festivals and things of that nature, but we want to make sure that we give to our citizens who remain here in those neighborhoods. So I don't think it may not be a drop in the bucket, but I think it's an investment.
Well, I am not speaking cost, but I do know that Brett does have, if you want to come up and just very briefly discuss, it's not as expensive as you may think to bring them up to par.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dennis.
It may be a big surprise, but the gas authority is on board with lighting those lamps. We think it would be a very positive thing. And advertises my product, which I think is a very positive thing for me. But there is a cost. When we light them between Christmas and New Year's, the person that's on call gets calls repeatedly to relight those lamps. That's why we've recommended either rebuilding or replacement of the heads so that their lighting is more reliable. Anytime that a citizen calls in a smell of gas, we're required to go out and respond to that. So middle of the night on a weekend night, we'll be out there relighting those lamps, and there's a cost for doing that. We think with replacement of the heads, that should be minimized. During hurricanes, all bets are off, but we think the plan that's been put together is a good one. And I'll answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Dennis? Thank you.
Please.
Mr. Dennis,
Yes.
you mentioned hurricanes, which is a point. Is there a process in place now for potential storm impact where gas-related lights are addressed prior to?
Well, usually during the time that we're currently lighting them, there aren't usually hurricanes between Thanksgiving and Christmas, or at least not in the time that I've been here. So we haven't run into that, but we have run into it where the wind off of the river will blow out some of the lights. And that's a, function of the age of the units and the repair that they're in, the shape that they're in. But going forward, if there was a hurricane coming up, it'd be a responsible thing that I would take that on to shut those off. Safety is top priority.
Thank you. And I'm just going to be the devil. No, thank you, Mr. Dennis. A devil advocate. Have we explored solar? Truly explored solar as an option because you can get
Yes, he
lights that
has.
look like.
Yes, he has, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Question solar.
Well, that is an option, not one that we would.
I know that you wouldn't advocate for it. I
It
get
is an
that.
option that could be pursued, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I think all options should be pursued. I also think the rest of and I live in that neighborhood, so I'm not being the devil's advocate here. I think the neighborhood also needs to be polled about how the majority of the neighborhood feels about this.
Well, I clearly stated that
Yeah,
was one of the big mistakes that Boston made. And Boston is in the top 25 cities in the country. So they have pretty deep pockets. And they could be a good example. Everybody, I think, is certainly for a green savings. It's hard to combine the two. But there's a big difference between 2,800 lamps and 18 lamps pertaining to emissions. It's very, very minimal. I don't think that it should be anything that would stymie, the lights being lit. The fact that the emissions are detrimental to our town in any capacity. So I was under the impression that solar just really isn't something that's possible. And the conversion to electric, what Boston learned was that the best time to do it is when you're doing other maintenance. When you have, mandated, capital maintenance that you're doing pertaining to sidewalks and streets. Is the way. And I know that we were not that long ago torn up completely, that would have honestly been a good time to do it, but it wasn't even addressed. So,
That's why I was suggesting the possibility of exploring solar versus electrical. I
yeah, I
realize
had brought that up. Yeah, I
yes,
had
I
brought that
just-
up. I had spoken to Brett
Okay,
about it.
and
So I think it would be cute to have the little solar thing up there and there would be something, but it's only 18 lights. We're not talking.
I understand
Okay.
that, but anyway, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed the staff's recommendation is to poll the neighbors
Yes.
in that area. Polling the neighbors, depending on the outcome, I'm assuming is what you'll consider, I guess, and bring back for us to move forward with.
Absolutely. I'll bring my findings to the commission.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just stop it there.
Okay, and
That's fine.
If I may, I wanted to say that I did speak to Joe, about the electrical and the solar. He's not here today, but he did speak to the fact that it would be difficult to get electrical out there, even though it is solar. There's supposed to be an electrical connection, but I will absolutely reach out to him post-meeting and get back to you all on a better understanding of the electrical component of this.
I have,
Go ahead,
I have
Ms.
a
Jackson.
question. I see we have the numbers for the gas. Do you have any numbers of the upfront cost for electric, to go electric?
I do not, but I will absolutely bring that to you guys, by the end of the week. I'll thank you.
Any further discussion on this item?
And just to add on to it, it's, when your report, you said it can exceed $10,000 annually.
Yes.
How much it can exceed it? Those are not good hard numbers
Of
when we're
course.
talking about going forward, and I think that that should be presented to us when making this decision
Of course.
as well. And like Ms. Jackson, I would like to know the number.
Yes, if I can speak to the $10,000. So in a couple meetings I had with Brett, we looked at the number can kind of go up and down based off a few things. One, that at this point, the cost of gas would be about $1 a day. So it can go up, it can go down, as well as if the gas lamps get blown out. I know that he mentioned the overtime cost. So if those lamps go out a lot, that cost can go up. If they don't go out as much, then that cost would stay the same. So it takes those things to account. And then of course, general maintenance, if a lamp has a problem. It's hard to give an exact number because we don't know how much gas will go up. We don't know how many lamps will end up needing repairs. So that's just a general base cost that we felt comfortable with saying, at least right now. But of course, as we do more research, I'm sure we can absolutely get a more accurate number. That was just for today's discussion.
Thank
I
you.
got one other question.
Sure.
So if the lights go out, what would be the emergency to get maybe one light, two lights? I mean, how many lights determine an emergency before you call somebody out for overtime?
Smell.
I think I can answer that. Anytime we hear that there's a gas smell, it's a response
Okay.
immediate. We have people on staff are on call 24 hours a day for water and or for gas. If a resident called and said they smell gas, we're gonna respond immediately.
Okay, I mean, I just wanted to double check and make sure that, I mean, so if it goes out,
Yes.
that means that gas is still going to it and it's not being burned?
It is, but it's a small amount of gas, and natural gas being lighter than air would tend to dissipate rapidly.
Okay,
I was in the propane industry for a lot of years, and that goes down.
right.
Be a more dangerous situation. I'd also like to say that the first year cost, we would expect to be higher than going after that, because replacing the heads, doing the repairs up front, then it's just maintenance. So the first year would be the bigger, and then the cost we would expect to level out after that.
Right. And the last
Yes,
question is, so the lights were on prior, but then they were turned off, correct?
Yeah, I'm finding discrepancies on exactly when it was shut off. But our records show about 2011, they were turned on. They were turned on all year, and then at that point sporadically.
I thought it was before that. I
It could
bought a
be.
house in 2005. They were on all the time.
Yeah.
I thought it was more like 2009-ish.
Okay.
When the city decided to cut off the funding for the city and or gas authority, cut off the funding for that and told the neighborhood association they had to absorb that cost.
So,
And that may well be that different people are paying. The city themselves
Yes.
is what we looked into it. I've been here since 2018. We've been doing it on during special occasions since then.
so my last question is, so since they were turned on and then turned off, whatever that period of time
Mhm.
is, can you look back and see the number of times that maybe y'all had to maybe go out, if they kept records of that during that time to kind of understand and know?
Well, I can
have
give you an
some-
idea that during that 1 month period, I would say we have at least 10 call outs during that time. Would you say that's fair to say? 8 to 10?
Yeah, probably.
8 to 10 is an average, depending on how windy it is,
Right, okay,
with the current heads that are on it.
correct.
We would expect with better equipment, we'd have better results.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
And if I could just add real quickly, there are guards that you can buy. They're just simply a little glass that you slide on top, and especially at the riverfront where it does blow a lot, it could certainly help a lot. And I was told it was $40 a pop when they're when they blow out.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, thank you.
On to the next item. Recommendation to award building improvement grants, September 2024 cycle, Ms. Odom. Ms. Cardy?
Not sure how to operate. Okay. I'd like to pull item 4BH, please. If I may, is this the appropriate time?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. Ms. Thank you.
And I'd like to say something. I have a relative that actually applied. And I want to disclose it, and I want to recuse myself from
Okay,
this vote. I don't need to take a vote on it.
okay, thank you.
So
Go ahead.
the issue there is whether or not you would
Gain
directly
financial.
benefit if you put in your any sort of personal gain.
I wouldn't, but I like it to be clean. I think that the commission could award or not award without me.
So you don't own the house, have any interest?
No, I don't own it. I have any interest. However, I have a relative that applied, as I said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So on January 14th, the Tax Increment Fund Advisory Committee scored and ranked the eligible applicants for the September 24 cycle of the Building Improvement Grant. These scores have been included in your report. And today you'll be asked to make a funding recommendation. The funding recommendation will be made today before submitting it to the commission for final approval. The applicants will have an opportunity to share any new information regarding the projects. However, please note there will be no presentations allowed. And before you all begin, Ms. West and I, as well as Ms. Cardy, we had a few conversations of just a few things we wanted to bring up. So the application cycle closed in September 22nd, 2024. And in that time, there was a few things in the application we looked back on as that was quite a few months ago. And we noticed that more than half of the applicants have already began work on their projects. And in this application, it says that work that is retroactive may not be eligible for funding. But there is a part in the application as well that says that within 30 days of the deadline of the application approaching, then there will be some sort of determination that the process will begin. That did not happen. As I stated before, the first meeting was January 14th to go over these. So we are asking today if it would be considered that just for this one cycle, that the applicants that have already done work are still considered, but only for work they've done after the 30-day mark, which would be October 22nd. And this is only because we would hate to penalize these applicants that are really doing what the grant is meant to do, which is to remove blight in their community, as well as one of the other important parts of this application is that they not be reliant on grant funds.
Commissioner Campbell?
I just wanted to bring legal in. I know she mentioned that her, Ms. Cardy, and legal had or was in communication. Even though it ultimately falls up under the commission, I want us to be mindful of the precedents that we are setting. So I want to bring legal in to get her true perspective as to the recommendation.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. So upon taking a deep dive on the Building Improvement Grant Program materials, it does state work completed prior to grant award on the property may not be considered as match or for grant funding. Because that is not mandatory language, it's not a shall. In my opinion, that allows some discretion on the part of the CRA board to consider improvements that were made afterwards. It will remain within the discretion of this board to consider that in future funding cycles, if this grant program verbiage is not changed. All that being said, I've been working with Kristen. We've identified some of the problem areas, loopholes, potential issues within the grant program documents that we will be working to address in the future. And that's going to be one of them. But you do have discretion here. And Ms. Odom properly characterized this as, addressing the blight in the city. So we would urge the commission to use that discretion.
Thank you.
So how would we like to proceed with that? Just like I said, over half the applicants have already begun work in some way. Before we move forward, I just would like to see how you would like to proceed, and that'll determine what applicants we hear today.
What is the thought of Commissioner Davis? I'll go around the dais.
I do not have a problem accepting the request.
Commissioner Palacio,
Same.
Commissioner Borrow. Okay, Commissioner Jones.
We knew some of this from our last cycle, so some of these loopholes and some of these issues already have been disclosed and discovered. And truthfully, I don't think it's the applicant's fault. It's our fault. And if they had done work, I think it should be considered. That's my personal opinion on this, because it is not their fault. So if that money can be allocated, I'd say let's allocate the funds to them, let them be eligible.
Ms. Jackson.
I totally agree. It's not their fault, and we should move forward with allowing them.
Thank you.
Commissioner Campbell.
Wonderful.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, and I am too. I concur. It's the responsibility, the onus is on us, and I'm glad that, and I think I've mentioned to Ms. Odom that this grant really verbiage needs to be revised, updated. There's a lot of glaring issues, so I'm all in favor of that.
Great, and I would like it to be known that before the next grant cycle, this application will be brand new, and we will solve a lot of these problems that I've heard from residents as well as staff.
Thank you.
Of course. So, give me one moment, Miss Johnson, our first applicant, she, is not feeling well and was unable to make it today. So she just asked me to read a little bit, if that's all right with you all.
Go
from
ahead.
A text, thank you. Okay, actually, she did not text me yet, but that is okay. So, we have 110 Main Street. So she's requesting, $11,846 as part of her total project of $23,690. So she's gonna be replacing a front porch, replacing external doors, repairing shingles, and she replaced her metal roof. And like I said, many of the applicants have done the work and are almost complete, and she is one of those applicants.
I have a real quick question, if I may, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Is this the grant where we're matching up to half of what the total project is?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so I've listed on all of the staff reports, the max. So of course you can go from that max to anything below that, to not to exceed that amount.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to just, do we want her to, Ms. Odom, to go through each individually and then we can discuss, or how do we want to proceed? It might be easier to go through all of them. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ms. Connie, what?
I was just saying it is in the packet as well.
Yes, yes, clearly. Go on to the next. Please.
Yes. The next one is 113 South 8th Street. This applicant is asking for, she can receive a max of $25,000 as part of her $55,100 project cost, repairing the roof, tree removal, windows and doors, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, pressure washing. If you have any questions, she is here today, Ms. Conover.
Does anybody have any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. Now we can go on.
So next is 720 St. John's Avenue. The applicant is requesting the max of $25,000 as part of their total cost of $57,945 for hardscaping, landscaping, floor finishing, facade upgrades, all of the above in that way. Mr. Alexander
Is there any
is here if you have any questions.
Questions of the applicant?
Oh, which one that is?
This is 720 St. John's. Any questions of the applicant? If we go on then to 310 Main Street.
310 Main Street. They're requesting a grant amount of $9,100 as part of their $18,200 project cost for repairing the exterior, replacing rotten wood, repairing windows, doors, and frontages as needed. And I believe they are here to answer any questions.
So do you have any questions of the applicant? Did you say they were here? No.
I do
I
not
don't
see
see
her.
them. Okay, thank you. And on to 214 St. John's.
Yes, the applicant can receive a max of $25,000 as part of their 30,794. I believe that is a typo on my part. Should be a little over 15,000 they can receive for the max of $30,794 for their project costs.
Okay, thank you. 912 St. John's.
Yes, they can receive a max of 25,000 as part of their $196,700 project cost.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant who is here in this case? No? Okay, thank you. 706 St. John's.
For 706, they can receive a maximum of, and I believe that's another tip on my end, I apologize. Can't do the math off the top of my head, but it's a max of $35,000. I'm sorry, the full project cost is $35,000 for this applicant. And I believe Mr. Bates is here today.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant who is present? No, thank you.
And those are all of the applicants.
And that's all of the applicants at this time.
Yes.
Any discussion about any particular application?
Mayor, I don't have a discussion. I do have a question about the general process. Can you just run through the general timeline of this grant process, application start, application closing, review time, and grant time?
Yes, so I started on January 2nd was my first day.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase my question. What is the city's process? Not necessarily when you got here.
No problem. So applications were received. The deadline was September 22nd. From there, the applications were reviewed.
Can you state the year?
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Of 2024, September 22nd, 2024. The applications were received, they were reviewed, and a staff member reviewed them all and listed them out, sorted them by district, and answered just some more basic questions of what they were asking, the scope of the project, what districts they were located in, and if they had a complete application. From there, a meeting is set for the TIFAC committee to review the applicants and then do a scoring. So all of those applicants were scored and they were included in the report. Then from there, the following meeting, which is where we're here today, we are here to put amounts with each of the applicants. And then from there, it'll go to the city commission for review.
Thank you. So the process is typically about a 4 month process, typically.
Ideally, yes.
Any additional questions of Ms. Odom?
I would like to request that we add something simple as before and after pictures. Could that
Absolutely.
be added?
Yes.
Because, we're on the honor system that work has been completed, and I see some receipts here, and matter of fact, couldn't kind of catch up with you. One of the receipts I saw, it said work had not been completed yet. And it was actually in this packet. So the question is, I don't think we called the residents out, from the address that that you call, but aside from that, I would like to see before and after. What's the need and what we're approving to be done. And then if they say, well, this work have been halfway completed and we're receiving these packets to approve them, say, well, here's the half of the work that's been approved. That could help us out here.
Absolutely. And I've already reached out to all of the applicants in preparation for this to have them bring forward any like the completed invoices that they've paid to prove that the work was done and that it was done after that 30-day period if necessary. If you all would like to receive that as a conditional part of receiving their grant funds. But I can absolutely make that a condition of before and after photos.
I just think it'd be nice,
Absolutely.
consider it to be.
And we used to do that in the past, a long time ago when I was out there. We used to come before the CRA with before and afters for the home improvement program, et cetera. So I think it would be great.
I'll include that moving forward.
Additionally, I'm
with the nec-
sorry.
with the necessary documents received that, with the purchase of the equipment or material that's been purchased and of course certified contractors or whoever doing the work.
I agree.
Also, there's an additional step that you have the project manager, right?
So, once we make it to the end of the process and of our end, where we draft grant agreements based off of what everyone is awarded, we reimburse, the applicant is expected to turn in receipts. And then we go through them, make sure that it matches the scope that they were granted for. The project manager goes to the site and confirms that yes, all of these things have been done. And then from there, we go ahead and do the requisition to reimburse the applicant for their portion of the work.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank
So-
you.
So what I was referring to is the 113 South 8th Street. And it actually says here, work not yet completed. And but this invoice is here. So do you, and there's, I see invoices, but it doesn't say that they're paid or what.
Yes.
So those things need to be like cleared up. So we wouldn't know. So we,
If I may explain that, so that's what was submitted in the original application in September 2022. I didn't want to mix it up with new information since that wasn't a part of the original application. Due to the fact that you all may have not have approved today to move forward with allowing these applicants to allow retroactive work. But the applicants today have brought that information with them if you would like to see, or I can take them from there. But I kept the original applications received in September, as that was new information to me based off the last TIF-back meeting that a lot of these applicants had completed the work.
Thank you.
these these dates are August and September of 2024. So
Yes.
this is the old information.
So that was all the information that was received at the date of the application being submitted in September of 2024.
But you guys are requesting that we approve it. So to be approved, we should have all the information.
I do understand where you're coming from, and in the future, I can absolutely do that. And but this actually will not be a problem in the future. This will not be the case, but I do absolutely see where you're coming from on this item.
I have,
Go ahead,
Wait,
Commissioner Campbell.
I was finished, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were- Sorry, go ahead, finish up, Commissioner Jones, then. Sorry, my apologies.
So what I'm saying is you're bringing a process to us to approve this entire board, and we need complete information to be fair. So we're gonna be fair, to the applicants. I think that we should have this, and you say you don't want to mix old and new, but it's all one of the same. Because we're still talking about the same property, whether it's costs that have been incurred or the estimated cost. And we need to know the difference, whether they have already paid the cost, or this is just the estimated cost. Because if it's the estimated cost and they have not spent the money, we're awarding more than they have paid,
So.
more than the 50%, I'll say.
So that is actually one part of the application. So in the grant agreement, it says that you have to pay X amount of money before, or prove that you've paid X amount of money before you can receive your check. So I had an applicant, I just gave them their reimbursement check for where what it said on their application was they had to spend $30,000 to receive their $15,000. They actually exceeded that.
Sure.
So those were things I looked at, and there was even a few things on there. I was like, this doesn't apply. I'm not going to include that to make it as fair as possible. If that helps to explain that part of it.
It does, it's a little confusing me, and then again, to make the process fair, that's it, I just wanted to state it,
Yes.
because I did see these two here as a result.
Yes, I understand.
Awesome. Commissioner Campbell?
yes, I wanted to, it's my understanding that there was a review committee and there was rankings given. How
Mhm.
does the rankings play into what we have presented to us today?
Yes, so the scores that were provided, it's something that it's not stuck, set in stone. You all can see the scores and say, I don't agree, and make a different choice from there. So it's just something to help make the process a little bit more smoothly for you while you review these. As the TIF-back committee was able to ask questions, get a little bit more information out of each applicant.
So the ranking is not based on anything outside of just questions that was asked by the committee?
Criteria.
So there was criteria on page 26 of the packet. it was based off project quality, project feasibility, and redevelopment impact. And at the beginning of the meeting, I did go over all of that with them, so they knew what each scoring criteria they were scoring off of, so they could make the best decisions possible. And of course, make questions based off that.
Were there any other applicants besides the ones here that were ranked?
So yes, there was one more, but we did not have her certificate of appropriateness, which
Okay,
then made her ineligible
okay. That was
to move forward.
question. So this was basically all the applicants but that one, and that was kind of my question. Okay. And at this point, there's sufficient funding, obviously, to cover the these grants if they're approved. Do we want to proceed and vote on these, or is there any additional questions? Oh. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Ball.
So the only thing is, I guess we need to make sure, whatever necessary corrections need to be made, before the next cycle, we need to make sure that that stays before the board. And
Oh,
so it's on the agenda so that we know that it's being worked. And.
The
have
grant
some-
revisions, updates,
Right.
yes, okay.
We got it.
Application, okay.
And if I may, before you all make your motion with the next step, I'm in the process of going through old applications, our old cycles and grant agreements. So there may be some that people are still going through the process, and I'll be hearing back in the next few months before their grant agreement expires. So when I put together the cost improvement share of showing how much is left in the fund, I just wanted that to be considered, as there may be applicants that, I'm sorry, grant agreements that are still active, and we're still determining whether they are still in the process or if they've stopped doing their work.
Okay, yes, we know there were at
Yeah.
least a couple that we voted
Right,
extensions
let's
on.
looking at that.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Just want to make sure that is known.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
Madam Mayor, based on what's appropriate, from what I hear, I would like to make a motion that we accept the recommendations to award the grants for all of the one at a time.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking, direction. Okay. We'll go back up, look at addresses.
1010 Main is the first.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the grant award for 1010 Main Street.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. Somebody want to make a motion for B, 113 South 8th?
I'd like to make a motion to approve 110 South.
113.
113 South 8th.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. C, do we have a motion?
I move that we accept awarding the grant for 720 St. John's Avenue.
Second.
Oh, second.
Okay, Commissioner Campbell was a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. D. You do need to vote except for the one that you feel you're recusing yourself. I haven't heard your little voice in the background. Okay, because we're doing them separately. D, 310 Main Street. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 310 Main Street.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. E, 214 St. John's. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move with the grant for 214 St. John's Avenue.
Second.
A motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. 912 St. John's, motion? We have a
Make a
motion.
motion to approve 912 St. John's.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. 706 St. John's, motion? Who has a motion?
Motion to approve 706 St. John's.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor? Any opposition? Thank you. On to the next item, discussion direction, City of Palatka LED sign.
Yes, so
Okay.
we are. would you like-
No, I want you to go.
So the city is considering the purchase of an installation of a new LED sign to replace the existing Port Consolidated sign located at 102 Reed Street. It's situated in the North Historic District. This initiative aligns with the goals outlined in the Community Redevelopment Plan, which emphasizes the importance of advocating for health and safety of residents, property owners, visitors within the redevelopment area. So the city has solicited quotes from 4 different LED sign vendors, receiving about 8 proposals. The signs varied in size from 5 by 8 feet to a larger 5 by 10 feet. To evaluate the offers, myself, as well as city manager Marcia Carty, reviewed the proposals and looked at the following criteria: size, cost, quality of warranty, installation options, and we did an all or nothing scoring for those. So you either got the points if you met those criteria or you did not. So in reviewing and doing a thorough analysis, the vendor with the highest score of 8 was the Stewart Signs, which was the 5 feet by 2 inches by 9 feet by 2 inches, which was is the first attachment in the staff report. And that cost of the sign would be $31,761.26.
Thank you. That is for the sign itself. It's not for the structure that it's housed in, correct?
My understanding is that it's for everything.
That's for everything?
It's for
Okay, that's that. I
everything.
wanted
Yes,
clarification on that.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
it's the warranty, installation, all the above.
And
Well,
is,
Is that gonna be off the ground that, or is it gonna? There's already some type of fixture out there already. Are you going off of that or off the ground?
So we would be removing what is currently there and having it on that pedestal to be lifted up off the ground. We had looked at some different ideas and figured that the whole goal is to be able to see it from both sides and see it as you're coming down the bridge. So we thought that that would be a more appropriate for eye level, as the sign structure that's currently there is a little too high for what we're wanting to use it for.
Where it's at, oh, I'm sorry.
were you going still, Commissioner Jones?
So
did-
per our sign ordinance, how tall would that be?
That is a wonderful question. I did speak with Lorenzo prior to, and when we were looking at signs, when I first started, everything that we were looking at stayed within the ordinance range. They wouldn't be a problem, but I will absolutely get that in writing.
So how tall would that be again?
So that is gonna be 8 by 8. It's 8 feet and 8 inches, I believe, is what I see on there.
Yes.
This one is 9
Yeah.
So
My vision is.
It's 8 foot.
It's 8.
What I'm reading there.
So, yeah, I see 8. So just I'm a visual person. So if I'm thinking about the school district sign, in relation to that, is it about the same that,
Same
I mean, you
height.
guys,
I don't remember what it looks like. I do apologize. But I can absolutely get back to you on a comparison on their sign versus our sign to get a good idea of what this would eventually look like.
and the only reason why I say, ask that question is, we'll want a sign war. Our sign is bigger than theirs, and then you have somebody else coming trying to put, we'll see
Yes.
Charlie Douglas mega law firm all the way across the building. And because, I mean, I'm just saying, that's what we'll end up having, and then we're gonna be in here discussing.
Yes.
And matter of fact, while we're talking about it, I think we need to actually make that ordinance something that's complete. When we say we're gonna do electronic signs, I hope it's already an ordinance, but if it isn't,
It is.
we should make sure we know how big a sign can be coming in this.
It is.
Okay, I just wanted to say that.
Yes, I'll look into that for you.
Thank.
Commissioner Davis?
Where it says welcome, and this is a functionality question, that's able to be changed depending on what you want to place there. Okay, with LEDs.
Welcome should be on top.
Commissioner Barr?
Now, in the intensity of the lights, sometimes that could really impair your drivers from with distractions as well with the intensity of the lights. Because there's a location within the city that I won't say where it is right now, but when you're driving past that area, there's some high intense lights coming off of that, and it's very distracting.
Yes,
Can that
it
be
is. Yes, it
controlled
is.
though by the program that's involved? or the-
I'm not exactly sure.
Right.
I would think yes, that we'd be able to control that, but I think one thing that we can consider with that, because that is a topic that has come up quite a bit, safety at the end of the day, right?
Right.
So, as of right now, we have that location where the Port Consolidated sign is, but we can do a little bit more research to look at some, studies on where accidents currently happen. I've actually looked at one and I could see where the concern could absolutely arise there. And maybe we can change the location a little bit. I think we could absolutely
We
look
can
into
look
that.
at it.
And I can come back and say, this is the safest location based off accident reports.
Right, and I'll pass the other information over to Mr. Lorenzo so he can look at that area at least. Well, I'll pass it to the city manager so that they can pass it over to Mr. Lorenzo.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Campbell?
Yes, I wanted to kind of piggyback on the dialogue that Commissioner Jones mentioned. I don't want to sound war either, but I want us to maximize what we can do with that area because I know you have coming from across the bridge, something high would be a little bit more feasible than having something low. So I want us to take that in consideration as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know we're going to have a workshop to discuss the potential future of this property. But my other thought was that if, and we don't know what that's gonna be, but if at some point the city discusses the possibility of selling it and we have the sign here, are we going to annex that property into our city hall property, that little portion of wherever this sign is? I'm just asking for future thoughts.
Yeah, we were looking, some of the potential placements for the sign was initially where there is already a sign, and then secondly, a position that's close to where we're currently parking our cars, but on the Port Consolidated.
Which could also be.
Right,
annexed
so
in for
that
additional
way,
parking.
if for some reason there's any future event that it's not ours or whatever, at least we'll have the location for placing the sign close to the area that we already own.
Except
So
that
we're
area is
looking at
blocked
so
by the
many,
building and closer
Right.
to the the school district sign, so it's kind of, there's a limit to where you can, I guess is the bottom.
very limited.
Yeah.
It's only like 2 places almost.
Too, and one of the other reasons we had chosen the Ports Consolidated location with speaking with another company, there's already electrical there. So that's one less component we would have to worry about on a financial aspect.
Yeah, which makes sense.
One last question. So,
Sure.
and I know you guys already have the answer, but for clarity, that's not that far off of the roadway. So is there a variance that has to be certain distance from the roadway? Because all of those Port Consolidated probably a long time ago, when they had a sign up, that kind of
Planning.
electronic sign,
Yes.
quite sure it has to be off the roadway a ways.
Yes, like a certain setback, right?
Setback, yeah.
So yes, that absolutely exists. I'm not sure how many feet that is from the roadway, but I will get that answer for you.
And we did have director of planning there when we had a site visit with the various department heads that would be impacted by having that LED sign.
DOT was there, you saying?
Not DOT, our
Me.
directors, we had and we had our planning director and so forth. But we will indeed get in touch with FDOT as well.
So you are seeking direction, and I guess it's to explore this further and get the information requested, is that?
Yes, I think all of those questions need to be answered.
Okay, thank you.
Before-
Thank you.
Go ahead, and, yeah, go ahead.
The, just from the sign proximity, just say for instance, you got a number of different entities or businesses or organizations want to put signs up. Is there a certain proximity for your sign?
I'm not sure, are you? Planning would know, but I'll include that in my
Okay,
report
yes.
for the next meeting.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Any additional questions about this LED sign from Ms. Odom? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, discussion direction, CRA Code Enforcement Officer.
Yes, so the CRA districts encompass areas that require targeted efforts for effective revitalization and community improvement. As these districts undergo development and change, strong code enforcement becomes increasingly essential. Currently, the Code Enforcement Office manages a large area the entire city. To address this issue, appointing a full-time code enforcement officer who dedicates part of their time specifically to CRA districts will help to more effectively tackle quota compliance issues and better support the CRA's objectives. As outlined in the analysis, there are a few things that I looked at. First was purpose and need. A designated code enforcement officer will focus on the particular needs and challenges faced by properties, businesses within the CRA district. This also aligns with the CRA goals to reduce blight and enhance community quality. Another is community engagement. This code enforcement officer will work with myself as well as helping violators and residents in businesses in the CRA district. And I would like to also note that I did speak with the city of St. Cloud today, and they actually have a designated code enforcement officer. Theirs is full-time, and they consider it enhanced services by the office. And that salary is paid for out of the CRA funds.
Okay, that was going to be my question because I had
Right.
made this suggestion several years ago. Would this be a half-time position or full-time?
So it would be a
Just not-
full-time employee hired by the code enforcement office, but part of their time will be dedicated.
And
to
that will be
CRA.
clearly tracked. Absolutely no for
Yes.
funding purposes. And
Absolutely.
all three TIFs will contribute to this part-time salary. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
Just want to understand that the full-time position, parts of the person's salary will come out of other funding other than CRA. So CRA will pay a portion. What portion of that salary will CRA funds pay?
So Ms. Curry, I know you have the exact breakdowns of what we typically take.
Right, so there are two alternatives that we're actually looking at. We're looking at possibly having a full-time code enforcer for all three districts and also knowing that we're going to a fourth district. That's one option. The other option is only part-time, and that part-time salary would be split between all three existing districts. The percentage would be 70%, 22%, and 8%. That part-time portion that is allocated to the CRA.
From the three TIF
The
districts.
three
now,
CRA
the
districts.
CRA as a whole would be paying
Right.
50% of the salary, general fund would be paying the other. 50%.
Exactly. So it depends on the
I think
direction.
the full-time is a better idea. I think. it's
Yes,
confusing.
so do I. But we have to go by the direction that you give us. So what I'm saying is initially, when we talked about this, code enforcement is here. But we were thinking about having a full-time code enforcement person allocated to all three CRA districts. Okay? And then that person's costs would be split between all three districts. The percentages are 70% for downtown, 22% for South Historic, and 8% for North.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
How are the code enforcement duties are split up at this current time? And how do y'all keep up with it?
Currently, we are in, I would say, a transitional mode. Would you like to come up? You want me to continue?
Chief. Chief Shaw.
I currently have
I think I hit, but
Commissioner, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Mhm.
Right.
Go ahead.
All right, now, the code enforcement officer split up in half. We got two code enforcement officers and it's half of the city. It pretty much breaks down at 19th Street on both sides.
so, so would it be fair to say that they're splitting half of the city
Half split.
evenly?
Yeah.
Right. So you're talking about adding a third one or fourth
It would
one?
actually be.
Our
full, because you
budget.
have a third position that's
Yep.
not filled.
Right, that has not been filled.
You allocated a third one, and what we're gonna do is make that the city in the threes. And then this additional one code enforcement officer actually gonna be dedicated to the downtown district. And I was gonna take the other three and split the city around them. But they will be rotated every 6 months, so one code enforcement officer won't be stagnated in one spot.
I like the rotation deal, but I also like to have the understanding of how the workload and the duties are divided, because when we're talking about having, the percentage just didn't sound right as, I don't know, I know Commissioner Borman is about to speak on that, but you said 70%, 22%, then 8%. I really don't get that. So could
Mayor.
you explain to me, what do you mean by that? And how
But
you,
the percentages, I guess, is on pay. The percentage of workload would be actually divided up among he or she's route that they take. So I would not tell them to do 7% of it. They'll have a designated area that they need to cover on a weekly, monthly basis, and then they rotate around every time like that. So the percentage she called out, that is on pay. That is not on the code enforcement
Right.
officer.
Exactly.
That's on the funding.
That's
aspect.
on funding, right, and budgetary.
And it's based on the size of the size of the districts.
Right,
The
that
three
is
districts.
a ratio that has been established.
Yeah.
And from a budgetary perspective, that's what the allocation
The
is.
3 TIF districts.
go ahead, you make it cleared up.
Go ahead, Commissioner Barnes.
The only question I have is, I still think that the code enforcement is done based on a per call in, as opposed to having staff proactively go out and look for violations, right? So has it changed?
Change, yeah. 2 years
Yes.
ago, we got to be proactive.
Right,
And when they stopped doing anonymous calls, we got to be, Mr. Holmes, we got to be proactive. So actually, twice a week, they ride around the city, they stop and look for violations. The other weeks, they do admin stuff or they do call-ins.
So the entire city should be pretty much have some
Yeah.
coverage in
Yes.
terms of violations, existing violations and what you,
For
okay.
future.
And-
As of right now, our cubicle is set for code enforcement hearings all the way through November of this year, with at least 12 hearings per month.
And I do know code enforcement generally pays for itself for the most part, so it
Mhm.
helps in that regard.
Does anybody else have any questions on this topic? Commissioner Campbell, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't.
So the request is for direction from this board. Do we want them to move forward? Do we want any more information?
so.
Silence reigns.
No, everybody might gonna be on because we're gonna be talking in a minute. I just turned it on.
Well, I think we have to establish whether we're gonna do full-time or part-time first. And once that's established, I think that's when things can move forward.
So from here, you right, you're saying you're gonna, did you desire to start a part-time and see how it work, or what you saying?
I feel first you gotta know which direction you're gonna go. Are you gonna go full-time or part-time? And then from there, establish if it's even feasible. I mean, from my understanding, there's code enforcement now. So I'm assuming that it's broke, so it needs to be fixed. I don't know. Seems like I created something. Maybe I'm gonna turn my mic off.
No disrespect, man, but no, it's not broke. When I took over code enforcement, we had a lot of issues, no pun intended, Chief Shaw. But we have now created some structure. Now, we have made some people mad, but it's not broke. But now they want to reorg and change some things around, so that's why. But the code enforcement in the TIF district was something we had talked about 2 years ago.
Right,
Trying to get them to have their own person, because to be honest with you, a lot of our cases, but they're low-lying fruit, a lot of our cases come from the TIF district.
yeah,
So we were trying to say, okay, make you put some skin in the game and have a code enforcement or somebody dedicated to help that area. So that's where that came about. So
And we don't have a lot of resources for the whole, when you look at the whole city, we have had historically 2, now we're going to 3 for the whole city. And then this would be a 4th just dedicated to the 3
Yeah.
TIF district CRA. So, it's just, there are a lot of issues in the city code wise. And so it has been a limited ability. It's not that it's broke, it's that it's resource.
Well, I'll
Limited.
stand on it. If it's not broke, don't fix it, but.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
This one is an internal question to Commissioner Palacier. How many code enforcement officers do they have for the county?
I was just sitting there running that through my head, and I'm not exactly sure whatever I tell you, but I'm gonna guess and say 3.
Pay for the
I'm gonna say
70,000
west,
population?
Central and south is how I would think that.
Minus us.
But I was gonna make the comment, he would know certainly if they need part-time or full-time, or if they need to start somebody at part-time, and then as it looks like it develops, hey, we got a real need here, bring that person on as full-time.
So I'm just asking for educational purposes. And I know you probably work with the county code enforcement.
Yeah.
So how many do they have?
They have 3 code enforcement officers and they have 2, like it's called planning officers that can condemn buildings. So total 5 total. But there are only 3 in the code enforcement department actually. They'll
3
go
in
out.
code enforcement.
But to answer your question, if we're gonna start this, I would say go with a full-time position because that person can be utilized in other things and also cover a little bit more of the city if we needed to. A part-time person with the caseload itself, it would not be advantageous for you because a caseload itself runs you about 24 to 30 hours a week.
I would lean to his guidance and that he works there every day.
Yeah,
He would know more than
we would take his recommendation, and obviously it can go to full-time if the CRA does expand and the need arises in the future, we can discuss that.
And if I can add the budgeting part of it, this came into play during budgeting. And in budgeting, I think initially we were talking about 2 part-timers, but then as the director looked at it more and more, and the prior city manager, they came to a better understanding that it was wiser, instead of us having 2 part-timers, to have 1 full-time and allocate that person to all 3 CRA districts. So that's how we arrived where we are now.
I'd like to introduce a new perspective. When we look at where we're trying to go in this city and what we're trying to accomplish, and I've heard already, Commissioner Borum, to your point, we want the code enforcement to be proactive, right? Because we've been not in the past. That has been addressed. Even though the county has 3 code enforcement officers, I'm just gonna say this, how's that working for them?
Is it addressing all the needs?
The point I'm trying to make is just because the county has 3 does not mean they're setting a precedent of what's best.
Right.
If we look at the city and we have 2 currently split 50%, with the number of cases that exist, booked all the way for court dates in November, somebody's overworked. And we're not in a timely manner, I believe, addressing what needs to be addressed. We're trying to accomplish a goal with code enforcement. It's not to punish people, but to drive an appropriate behavior according to the codes of our city. And so I do want to consider that we, I want to recommend moving forward with the request with a full-time person, as we've just heard from Mr. Cutright. And the funding is here, it sounds. It also, I've heard that a lot of the blight or things that need to be addressed, there's a huge impact from the CRA districts as well. So I wish all things were equal, but it's not always like that in life. But to be equitable, if a lot of the work is coming from one area and we're in a portion of a half, we need to put more resources there. And that's what I think I'm hearing. I don't mean to simplify it so much, but that's what I think I'm hearing. So I'm in favor of moving forward according to the request.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments on this topic?
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
And I appreciate your opinion on the code enforcement of their jobs. I know that we were very adamant about bringing code enforcement back and making them proactive within the community, not penalizing the homeowners, however, but helping them bring their homes up in businesses up to a standard. Okay, so I am very much for that. Now, a proponent, and that's why I asked this question kind of candidly. We have members of this commission that live in these area that we're talking about having a designated code enforcement person that's gonna spend a significant amount of time in those areas. And if I had a choice as well, I would want to be in my community or where I live as well as a dedicated person. So, with that being said, I'm in favor for the position, but to whom much is given, much is required. I don't want to just see an officer dedicated to just, to basically take on one area and cater. And I'm being candid with my words right now. And cater, I would like to see a program being really established by code enforcement where we go out and when we identify these things, we could also educate them into how we could help them manage their properties. Because it's a perception that we want to take folk property. Just like you said, people are angry with code enforcement, maybe, but you're going out doing your job. With the more help that we get at the CRA for the North and the South, and the new district that we're talking about, so that potentially we could add 3 more code enforcement officers at some point, maybe not now, but the need may be there. But I would like for the program to be a fulfilling program where we're gonna see improvements in all neighborhoods, where people in those neighborhoods are gonna feel that they are also getting I wanna say pristine care when it comes to, hey, listen, we see the need in your neighborhood and we're gonna address them and we're gonna help you address your issues. So I talked to
Christian.
Kristen the other day about the same type of a program. And so if adding more code enforcement officers will help us get to that goal, I'm all for it. But I would like to see that kind of dedication throughout the city and that kind of coverage throughout the city. So I had to say it because I know we're talking about one particular, the CRA district in particular, and the amount of time as you shared it, but I want to make certain that we'll be able to, whether out of general funds, maybe fund even an additional officer, because I think, well, that's why I asked about the county versus the city. If we need more than 3, plus a dedicated person, let's round it off and just let's have that kind of coverage with a program. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
And I agree with that. Also having somebody dedicated, as we're saying, to the CRA districts frees up the other code enforcement employees, staff as resources to cover the rest of the city, which is also a plus. But if we need additionally, I think that's something we need to talk about during the budget session. And
Exactly.
see if we want to move forward with that.
That's part of planning.
Commissioner.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and while we're talking about the sourcing and resourcing, you mentioned dedicated. Now, when you're saying dedicated, you mean that position is a full-time dedicated position, but I understood that the people were gonna rotate.
Yeah, no rotation.
Okay. Dedicated but rotating.
Yeah, that way we can keep the.
I understand that
Yeah.
piece. I just wanted to make sure, because we were saying dedicated person to the areas. The other piece was that when we're doing the enforcement, I've got complaint that I got to share that some people feel like that they are being charged more than maybe their neighbor next to them, or as it relates to the cost. Now, that's what was shared with me. I can't say yes or no to it, but this is a concern I'm bringing forth. And we just want to make sure that whatever we do, we're doing it fair and equitable across the board, and that some people are not given different treatment than others are.
I think that's part of the education that Commissioner Jones kind of brought up, that has to be some information education to citizens about this whole process, because it is very confusing if you don't understand it. Commissioner Davis, go ahead.
Agreed with the education piece. I want to get clarification. The request is for an additional resource that would be dedicated to the CRA district, paid by the CRA funds.
Shared
Hold on, let me make sure. At least part of their time will be there, but they'll also be used as a resource in other parts of the city.
Yes.
So, because I heard something when Commissioner Borum, he's driving a question for me. So now I want, it's clear as mud to me now. It was clear before. But you're talking about rotating resources in the city. So the city, let's say now will be divided into thirds because you may have 3 resources. But really you would have potentially 3.5. I don't want to get caught in semantics, but do you understand where I'm going with this? This sounds like an administrative
That's getting
nightmare.
funded by the CRA could not be rotated. into
That's
district.
the
bottom
point.
line.
That's the bottom line.
For the half of
So-
your salary anyway.
So explain this question. My initial proposal when this all came up was to have, I wanted 4 code enforcement officers.
Yes.
Between the conversation with the city manager and also powers of be, we got 3. 2 years ago, Mr. Griffin lobbied to try to get the CRA to kind of offset some funding for one of the code enforcement, because again, most of your code enforcement cases was coming out, most of your major cases were coming out of the CRA district with permits, planning and all that stuff that comes with old houses. So along the way, they was gonna pose an offset. We did a study about a year and a half ago where we did Saturdays in the CRA district to trying to see what kind of workload we have and how much it would cost to have a code enforcement officer there. That study reeled, maybe we needed a good part-time officer there. So we allowed it to get a full-time, that way that person would be more of an admin side on the house and also work in the CRA district, but also be the team leader of the other 2 code enforcement officers, other 3 code enforcement officers that we were trying to get at that time, to where give them time to still do other admin stuff, but also help the CRA district. It manifests to just having 1 code enforcement officer and splitting that in half. And that's where that came. So now, right now, we have 3 code enforcement officers, 2.5 that will work for the city and the other half will work for the CRA district.
Correct. Okay. So again, to the mayor's point, that person is not in the rotation of the city.
Well, if we can,
Potentially.
yeah, potentially, yes.
I just want to
Yeah.
make sure. I want to just clarify, and if I want to make sure I'm clear on my position. This entire city matters. The entire city matters. I don't care what section of town is in. When I hear this request, I am speaking and commenting under the assumption, and if it's not correct, we will need to correct it, that all areas will be treated the same. I'm talking, I can only speak from this point forward. All areas are the same. And so I hope that we don't have to continue making comments about ensuring that one area is treated the same as another area, because that should be a given. And I'm not here to reprimand you. I want this statement on the record. We're talking about all of the city. I also believe we have to understand that certain areas of town have different requirements based on different structures and different makeup. And so when we're talking, again, I can only hope that that's the distinction we're making, not in how an area is treated. If we're trying to go from blight to bright, it doesn't matter if one area is shiny and 2 others are not. The city's not shiny. So I just want to state that, because that's always the assumption I'm coming with. The other point now, I want to make sure that it is very clearly identified as we go forward to look at this, that when it comes back for consideration, that we have a clear black and white manageable process where we can understand that the resource that the CRA is paying for is a resource for the CRA. And so you've heard the concerns, so hopefully they'll be addressed. And the last thing I want to consider and say is that I want to thank you for your work, because I know it is challenging. And I know we're in transition and doing better with code enforcement. And I am going to yield to some of the things we've heard that the city manager heard, and we'll discuss accordingly with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
I just got one concern, comment to, Mr. Cutright. Yes, I mean, again, I echo the same sentiment as Ms. Davis. I want to thank you for where you brought the program from to where it is today. You have made the city, much brighter, and, it's certainly, something that when you're coming through the city now, is looking a lot better than it did in the past. And so, again, you brought this, program from a mighty long way, buddy.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. I do have a public comment, Mr. Alexander, public comment card, I should say, on this topic.
Jeremy Alexander, 134 Timber Lane, and I don't want to belabor the conversation anymore, but a lot of what I wanted to talk about was about process. And then I also wanted to compliment Mr. Cutright's team, because where we were 2 years ago is much different than where we are today from a codes enforcement perspective. So whatever is going on is much better than where we were. I do know that. The only opportunity that I think we should consider through this process, to the conversation about city and county working together, is there a need from a building inspector position? And as we think about throughput and process with adding an additional codes officer, is there a need from a city perspective when it comes to condemning buildings or structures that could potentially help with that throughput as well? And that's all. All right.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you. Police bicycle patrol?
Let Chief come.
Chief Shaw is here to answer any questions on this item, but I'll go ahead and read a little bit from the staff report. So the City of Palatka Central Business District serves as the heart of the community and attracting residents, businesses, and visitors alike. However, the increasing foot traffic and activity in the area has led to a need for enhanced safety measures to ensure public confidence and overall community well-being. In response to the concerns from stakeholders, including local business owners and residents, the establishment of a police bicycle patrol has been proposed. This initiative aims to provide a visual police presence during peak hours, which have been identified as Thursday through Sunday, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. And as outlined in the staff analysis, there are a few benefits: crime deterrence, direct communication with business owners, and increased visibility and accessibility. And I did want to make this known is that this is an extension of services from the police department that the CRA would pay for. Under the cost considerations, you can see that the annual cost would be about $46,800 for one officer, and for two, it'd be around $93,600, and that does not include the fringe benefits, which are about $20,000 to $21,000 annually. And it also does not include equipment. And there are quite a few cities that have implemented this. The city of Sarasota, Mount Dora, Winter Garden, Key West, and Daytona Beach.
Also Sanford, because I happened to talk to
Sanford.
the folks,
Sanford,
the
yes.
the police bikes in Sanford, and they were actually retired police officers that were contracted. They weren't even in city positions per se, they were contract positions too. And they were very helpful. They also shared a lot of information about the city, so they were a great PR piece as well.
Sure, yes.
So if it's possible, I'd like Chief to say a few words, if you may. Because we are actually looking at both options, contractual and employee. Of course, you don't want to hear it, but still true.
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I agree totally with the increase of visibility as well as the opportunity to be able to address issues in the downtown and the CRA district. I do want to emphasize that the police services would be better placed put as the product that we would be delivering, opposed to just simply identifying it solely as bike patrol. Because I believe there is a necessity to provide services throughout the area, an opportunity to provide services throughout the area to go along with more than just the bicycle unit. Now, I do agree bicycle unit will be something that is a great plus in addition to it, but I believe it's an opportunity if we're going to add personnel to deliver a total package of services to the area and an ability to focus and concentrate on the area. One of the things that we mentioned and one of the challenges that we see and we face currently is when we're looking at hiring is the ability to hire in a timely manner. And we're also looking at, as what the mayor stated, as retired officers in a pool or something to pick from retired officers to complete those services. In talking with the city manager, I told and expressed to her that the contractual position or part-time position is something that we could look at definitely, but I believe we're going to run into challenges because what we found in our area is not something that's has been something of a popular nature to be able to attract those services for what we provide currently. We do, as you know, run into an extreme challenge, but we're able to deliver for full-time officers. But it is not necessarily something that we're able to not only supply for our reserve staff, but for the opportunity for part-time. I am for anything that we can look to accomplish to add in addition to be able to address the issue. But I just wanted to express and take the time to express what we probably would be facing as when we're looking at the hiring portion. And then also wanted to make sure we understood that in that process, when we're looking at hiring, we still have to send these individuals, if they're attached to the police department, through a training regimen. And they will have to go through field training, which if their experienced officers can be as little as 7 days or up to 4 months. It depends on the development and how well they go through the actual training process. But they would have to go through a training process once they're hired on.
So in summary, you're recommending non-contractual employees of the city police officers. That's your preference. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want you to be.
That is good.
Okay.
And so we're still in the exploratory stage. And we just wanted the CRA to know that we heard you when you mentioned it before. And we're just bringing it to you just for discussion, direction. Do you want us to continue exploring options? And it may be that we cannot implement anything in this fiscal year, but at least it will be on the radar during the budgeting for next year.
If I may add, I think it's a wonderful idea. I do think we should move forward with it if we possibly can. And maybe, if it's difficult to hire permanent employee, because I agree with you. I would rather than work for the city. I understand your where you're coming from with that. But is it easier maybe to contract until you can get somebody in? If we're able to move forward with this program?
Well, that is something that it's a hard question to answer, being that we haven't looked at contracting police services in the past. So to be able to look at the proper answer for that, I would actually have to tell you I don't know yet.
Okay.
Okay. And for coverage purposes, is the recommendation 2 versus 1 officer or part-time versus, just for, again, for clarification? For coverage purposes, is 1 officer sufficient? I don't see how.
You're asking me for a number of officers, Mayor, now.
I'm open a loaded question.
Yeah.
10.
2 full-time, 4
What we've talked about and looking at what we've talked about, myself and the city manager, and looking at the total numbers, we talked about 2 officers.
Okay.
And we spoke to a couple of different things to cover time-wise and coverage for the area.
Yeah, and that if you're proposing that coverage for that period of time, like Thursday to Monday, whatever we're saying, then it sounds to me like you need to. Go ahead, Commissioner Palacio.
Chief, would this be something that would be strictly daylight hours only or maybe festivals and events that are downtown, putting officers on bikes? Is that what you're proposing or thinking, or what's your ideas?
Well, again, when we talk about adding additional resources, we talk about services. The bike unit would actually be out through most of the daytime services, but I'm talking about complete services. So it would allow for them to be out, or the individuals to be out through different periods of the day, depending on what the need is for the area at that time.
Just kind of feel your way as you go, so to speak, until you find out more or less where you really need them. Is that?
Well, we'll identify, and we've identified the peak times as it stands currently. And looking at it, we'll make sure those services are delivered during those times. We'll be ahead of it to be able to provide scheduling and officers for the area when the need is, and knowing that the scheduling might be already predicted ahead, whether it be festivals or whether it be events in the downtown area, or whether it be just simple, not only patrolling, but getting out and engaging with the business owners and the residents. So we would schedule as what the need is for the time.
And to the point, based on the previous discussion about code enforcement, this would free up other police officers to give an equal amount of coverage to the rest of the city, or a higher level of coverage to the rest of the city. I don't know about equal, but yeah, this would also free up existing police officers to do more in the rest of the city.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, we're talking about coverings, remember, Saturday, Sunday
Yes.
as well.
What's the peak time?
Yes.
For downtown,
So,
as they go. Do we have any other comments? No.
My other comment that'll come on, I think it's still within the CRA and, not
Right.
CRA, but it'd be the code enforcement. So whenever I can add that piece on after.
Oh, you can add it now if you'd like.
Well, in terms of code enforcement is why it just hit me. But I think most time when we have people who are violating codes, sometimes they're doing things outside of the normal business hours, 8 to 5. They know that code enforcement normally work during the core hours of the day. And so, and I know that Mr. Cutright said that they also did some things on the weekend because the caseload required that. So we need to think about anytime after 5 during the normal
Okay.
business week, and then even sometime on the weekends as well.
So I can share that with Mr.
Any other comments? We have a request for public comment. Mr. Deputy, please come up.
Sam Deputy, 623 St. John's Avenue, downtown. This is very concerning to us and as merchants, because Christmas Day, we had shootings at 19th Street, 2 passed. Just a few weeks ago, within 30 days, we had a stabbing in the park downtown at mid-afternoon, broad daylight. Someone stabbed 27 times. Since that stabbing, business downtown has taken a nosedive, because if you go on Facebook, it is not safe downtown. It's better to go eat St. Augustine. Our restaurants, if we're comparing month to month, we're taking a nosedive because the perception is there. So I want to tell you that I've had a number of homeless on my block, and I'm calling, but I had one drop his pants, drop his bottom, and I had to clean it up across the street from me because there it is. And so, my broom, my Clorox, everything is over there. I shouldn't have to do that. Passing out notices for the sidewalk meeting last week. I do that before work. I go into an alcove right across the street from the courthouse. I trip on a homeless person in the dark. That person jumps and lunges at me. Well, I'm almost 70. I'm not who I once was. And so I'm running. I'm calling the police. We shouldn't have homeless sleeping in business doorways at all if we expect to be a walkable downtown. But it's incident after incident. So I want to make sure that Chief Shaw here is fully funded, fully staffed to the needs that he has to make sure that downtown is safe, because perception is 100% of the game. And if you're not safe, you're not going to go. I have to look out back or send my dog out back before I can take my trash out back. And I'm talking broad daylight or at night. And we just can't do business that way in a state of fear. And so let's make sure that we have the resources available, but we can't wait until 26 for that. We're at the cusp of our downtown changing, and the perception will make it or it could break it. With the last stabbing, my cousins call from Indianapolis and say, "Are you safe?" you know, word goes across the nation, and Palatka needs to be up there at the top. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Borum?
Yes, speaking on the homeless piece, Mike would like to ask the city attorney to kind of maybe speak to the law that was just passed, then they just passed a law regarding the homeless and what you can and cannot do with a homeless person if they're, whether in a park or wherever, in terms of moving those individuals if you're not having a better place to put them.
Yes, Commissioner, that was passed during the last legislative session, the public camping and sleeping bill that was passed. There are certain exceptions. For example, and Commissioner Palacier, you may know about this, if you're a fiscally constrained county, you can exempt the county from the requirements to provide sleeping quarters for the homeless. It's my understanding, I was just recently informed by the county manager that Putnam County has chosen not to exercise that particular exemption clause, but I don't know if the county is going to move forward with establishing a homeless shelter within its jurisdiction. So perhaps Commissioner Palacier can provide some guidance on that. But in terms of what the police can and cannot do, it is extremely limited. If you look at the verbiage of the statute, unless they are actually camping, and that requires the structures that you would imagine with camping, like a tent or a cardboard box, or sleeping, there's very little that the police department can do to enforce those provisions of the statute. So it is extremely limited. But we do anticipate additional bills coming out of this legislative session, and Commissioner Borum, I know you'll be keeping tabs on that.
Right, and then that means that if they're there, that means you cannot make them move unless you have a better place for them to go. But to spin off from that, because it's been like a 2 or 3 year thing going, the city has put in funding in the budget for it as a priority. But we want to work with the county to see what we can do, because again, we did have when the county did get grant money or appropriations for animal shelter, which was almost $1 million. So we've been pushing for some time to be able to get a homeless shelter, no matter the size. We just want to make sure that we have the services that we can provide for our people. We're doing it for animals. We deserve to give people human dignity.
Chief Shaw?
Sure, I just wanted to just make a couple comments off of Mr. Deputy's last statements. First, I commend Mr. Deputy on getting to the call, give us notifications on things that was going on downtown, and we definitely heard his call and heeded his call and addressed those issues as the visibility for downtown, like any other hotspot area that we may have spark up within the city, and how we respond to it with resources is the same. Our visibility for downtown and addressing the issues downtown and the fear of crime downtown has increased tremendously. We have made it our duty to make sure that we are there both for the times that they are released from the shelter, to make sure they begin to clear out the area, as well as continuing to patrol the area and respond in the evenings to ensure that when they, and if they return, that they're returning in the proper manner and going into the proper places. As stated from the attorney, there is only so much we can do when it comes to the House bill, but it does not mean we can do nothing. And encouragement and communication. And what we tell our officers every day is the best tool provided to them is not a tool that we can give them, it's the tool that God gave them, and that's the tool of verbal communication. And through our verbal communication and insistence, I believe we've received some compliments from individuals in the downtown area, thanking us for our presence and thanking us for the changes that's been made since the initial stabbing from downtown.
Thank you. Commissioner Palacier?
I have, because I didn't have your number, Chief, I called Justin Campbell many times about an individual at Ninth Street. And he is presenting a traffic hazard as well as endangering himself and others, sitting with his feet out there in the road with his sign. And as Mr. Deputy said, perception is everything. And if you have, I was in New Orleans 6-8 months ago, I guess, maybe further back, and had my daughters with me, made a trip around the Superdome, and we saw an actual tent city there was easily 200 people living under a overpass. And that's not the perception we want. If we're trying to attract growth and people that we want to stay here and enjoy our town and become a part of our town, this is something that we've got to do away with. It's just got to be done. And coming from a background in law enforcement or knowledge of, the man that I was educated by, if you make it unpleasant, they'll leave. And I didn't say kick them out. I said just make it very unpleasant here. It's not a nice place to stay. And they'll find somewhere else to find them a home. But you can't have them on Reed Street and St. John's Avenue with the main thoroughfares through this county.
And we've got to work closely with the county to provide those wraparound services, not just a shelter, but a place that people can get the services they need, whether it's mental health, medical, or other things. And I think that's something we need to work with the county on in terms of funding, because it is an unfunded mandate, as many are from the state. But we do have folks that are unhomed, and they are still people. And we need to be there for them and find some solutions collectively or collaboratively to address these issues.
And speaking on what Mr. Palacier was talking about in reference to Mr. McCall, we did address Mr. McCall a couple of times. As a matter of fact, he had moved across the street for the north side of 9th Street, and then assisted him to breaking a few laws before he was arrested. I think Mr. Campbell can attest to when we received the phone call, we did take care of that issue as well. Mr. McCall, from what I understanding, is not out there at this time. So within the last week, as I spoke of, there's been some different things that's been pushed through. I agree with you on the fact that you make them uncomfortable, but also in the world that I live in and understand, especially with litigation and now has it increased in things of that nature, you have to be very careful with the unpleasantness.
It's a different world.
How you define unpleasant.
He used to make his place of operation there at the corner of 17 and 207. And I kept the SO on him hard enough that he found him a new home. And I guess he came this way. Sorry about that.
Well, he was here before we pushed him over there.
Commissioner Borum?
Yeah, again, I think it's just an opportunity for the city and the county to work together to help provide some form of homeless shelter or whatever else it may be, with all of the services that we need so that we can help best take care of our people. Again, it started out in Oregon. You got Texas, California, all those places. You go there, even DC, you go, like you mentioned, in New Orleans. These places, they are just riddled with homeless people, and you see encampments everywhere. So, but I think we're not there yet, but we're on our heels. We were trying to get there like a few years ago, but now we're here. It's ahead of us. We got to do something. We can't keep talking about it, and we can't, we just don't want to make it so uncomfortable for the people where it's being not in a humane way, to where it's being uncomfortable. So I think together we can work together between the city and the county to help solve, at least, we might not solve the problem, but we can make things better.
Thank you.
I-
Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
I think I know what Mr. Deputy said. I heard a little bit from Mac. However, you were talking about moving in the statute, but there are other tools that could be used to kind of help people move along from businesses or unwanted places. Like we still have the loitering statute. And you can move folk right along. So, and then you could call, if you don't want them on your property, there's also trespassing. So there are other tools that could be used so people could be moved. I think Mr. Palacier is talking about the proactive days where the sheriff would send them to the county line and let them out. Yeah, that's not a good method, and we can't do that, of course. And I'm not talking. I'm talking about some nuisance. It turns into being a nuisance at certain times. I'm quite sure. When you come, I had a business owner call me and state they're scared to go to their business in the morning because someone have camped out there, and it's a danger. And you don't know. I think some mental health issues are there too. So they don't know what person they're gonna meet what particular day. So you may upset an individual once you go to your shop to open shop and they're on some other level that day. It could get ugly. So I do like the dialogue that we're having about trying to do something. And I think I agree with everybody input up here, but we do have to think of the people that own or lease the spaces, their rights to their property, their rights to their space. There are some homeless tents in my neighborhood area, and there's some wooded areas, and I think on North 16th Street, there's an area where the residents say, hey, listen, these people are in the woods and they have blankets and tents. That's where they go. You can see them going there late at night. Again, like Commissioner Boyle, we don't have a solution because we don't have anywhere to put them. But what about those residents that are afraid, that thinking something's gonna happen, they can't sleep at night? So they're in their house, but they're almost like prisoners in there, once these people invade the community. We gotta put our heads together, and I hope we can workshop it, city and county and all other entities. Yes, the mental health and all, we gotta get together and try to make a solution. So Chief, if you could head up something like that, a coalition, yeah, we can get together. I think that's a start. That's a start. We really could talk about it. It's gonna take the attorney, it's gonna take Chief, it's gonna take all of us collectively to really get something done.
And we have
challenge
been,
you guys
with the assistance of the interim city manager as well as Ms. West. This is not something that we've been sitting quietly.
Right.
We discuss it on a regular basis on looking at not only what we have in our toolbox, and the trespass tool we are using. As far as the loitering, as you know from previous law enforcement experience, there has to be another crime within to be able to fit the statute. If there's not, then there's not loitering. So, but the trespassing is something that we have been encouraging, not only residents, but business owners to make sure they understand that they have that right, and we understand that we have that tool to get people to move along. Outside of the public areas, again, it's an encouragement. It's the way you approach an individual to be able to get them to move out of the area and allow for peace of mind for whether it be the residents or the business owners. But we are discussing on a regular basis, and then returning it back to you all as far as what we are able to do, and asking for the different assistance, because we realize that it's not something that the police department or only the legal department or maybe even public works are going to be a deal with alone. It's something that we're all going to have to sit down to the table and bring some stuff to be able to have some answers and provide to be able to address the problem.
And the school district is also a part of that because there are a lot of children and families on
Right.
home that attend school. Commissioner Borum has something else unless you're not done. Are you done, Commissioner Jones?
Specific.
Okay, go ahead.
The
Go ahead.
family market area, that is breeding issues where people are afraid to walk by there, to go by in their vehicles. And again, we get calls. I'm quite sure everybody get these calls. They moved them from sort of like they used to hang out at the train station. Now they migrated toward the family market. And on the side of the building, in front of the building, they even have furniture out there. So that's almost a sign saying it's okay to
Hang out there.
hang out here, and again, it's potential problems. So like code enforcement, being proactive, we could stop that, because nothing good is going to come out of that kind of congregation.
And that's the area that's once again recently has popped up again. As you know, they used to congregate in the back, and we've addressed that with the property owner, and they put up the fence. Now it's in the front, and again, there've been some changes, and we're gonna have to reapproach the property owner as well as those individuals to get it to cease. And again, like I said, resources being able, we are looking at addressing, but we're aware of it.
Commissioner Borum?
Yeah, so just the last thing about this, but if an example out in Oregon, most of the officers out there quit. They quit. If you call for an officer, you might get a security guard because they had inundated those people out there with all of the homeless calls, and they made it to the point to where if they're in your yard, you can't make them move, you can't make them do anything. But again, because what happened, the officers couldn't do their job because they were all their calls were going for trespassing people and they weren't, most of the time, they weren't even violating, any law or whatever. So what they can do is give them a citation or anything like that, but how you gonna cite a homeless person or different things, and they're not breaking no laws? So I just don't want the city to get into that particular thing, but if we can help them in the best way we can, that's where we need to be at.
Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
I think the discussion lends well to us accepting the staff recommendation.
I second that.
Jesus.
You,
Whoa.
keep moving on. Thank you.
Okay.
Interim city manager, CRA coordinate.
Yes, quickly.
I will make this quick. So we have two items that two redevelopment initiatives that we're really excited to give updates on since I've started. The first is the St. John's Avenue Streetscape Project. So I have Carlos, our project manager, here to go over some of the things, if that's any questions you all may have. But sure.
So. The bicycle? Yeah, we was on the bicycle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we didn't move on.
Yeah.
So sorry.
We got sidelined
I
into
was so
so much
excited.
things. Okay,
That's
trying to
my
bring, so
apologies.
we'll let Commissioner Davis bring us back full circle
So
to just
they want
what's on the agenda.
So the staff recommendation for the police bicycle patrol is to move forward. And I'm saying,
And I second it.
I move,
That's what you were saying.
yes,
too,
I move that we do. We need a motion.
We want you to move forward. Do we need a motion?
Yes.
That's great.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. I second.
Commissioner Warren. Yes.
All right. We got it.
Yes. Yes, to you.
I apologize. I got a little
Okay,
excited.
sorry. Now
Great
back
update.
to you, Ms. O.
No problem. So, two major redevelopment initiatives we are working on since I've started. I'm really excited about these. The first is the St. John's Avenue Streetscape Project. I know it's been going on for a while, but some updates we have is last Monday, we held an informal meeting with some of the business owners here where we had the architect, Chris, on the line with us, some of the business owners, myself, Miss Cardi, Miss West, Carlos, and Joe. We're all here to answer questions, and we received great feedback, and we're in the process of taking those to the architect and getting some answers back. A lot of those were pertaining to the bump outs. I know was a huge one we talked about, and basically in conversations with that, that's not currently included in the quote. So we're gonna get a quote for that and then see what our other options are to fund that. And Carlos, we will talk about that a little bit more, and just some other little things that we're gonna get included and get some answers on, and I'll bring those back to you guys, but I'll let Carlos kind of take over on that.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Merci.
It was a really nice meeting last week with with business owners. And where we stand right now on that project in St. John's landscaping, it's that we're just expecting the last 100% plans by 1 or 2 months by now. After that, we need to send that out to FDOT, and the architect said in that meeting that it might take like 6 months right now with FDOT. This is not something that we can control right now, but after that, we're just planning to send that out to bid, and we hopefully have like someone contracted by the end of the year. We have been talking with the vendors saying like, we cannot start the construction in December because, it's going to be like really busy month and it's not worth it. But we ended up saying like, after we get a contractor, we're doing a meeting with the vendors again, with the business owner, again, to set like a meeting and to set the schedule. How do we want to work on that? What times it's better for them, whatever. So that's what we ended up doing. Right now, the project is like 1.4 million. We have like 1 million for FDOT grant remaining, and we have like 400,000 for city match funding right now.
Thank you. Any questions?
Do we have those numbers that you're presenting to us based on the project layout and the allocations?
Yes.
So,
We'll send it.
okay, yeah,
Is it in there? Is it in the packet?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
It's not in the packet, but I will absolutely send it if you're able to pull it up. If you don't mind.
Does she know exactly where?
This one? Yes.
And there is an issue too that we might need to look at, you remember, the bump out stuff?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, the bump outs
Kristen
are,
mentioned that, yeah.
yes, are not included right now, but we're in talks with the architect to see how much it will cost, to see if we can find some funding to add it, because right now, we're just like, we're not funding on this project, but let's see what we can do to find some funding for that.
Because that would create the opportunity for some outside dining and other and amenities, but also it's a traffic calming opportunity as
Right.
well, which we desperately need on St. John.
What did you say, the what?
Bump outs.
Bump out.
So there's a little bump out from the sidewalk where there's potentially a seating area for, other cities have done that for eating
Yes,
outside.
business owners has been the one asking for this. But go ahead, sorry.
Right.
Before we do that, we need to repair some of those walking hazards that we have downtown. So, we have money for the streetscape. I think we need to address those in that area because those are potential liabilities. And if I'm not mistaken, you have some already out there. So I encourage us to look into those, walking hazards out there because we have on some of those curbs. For some odd reason, the drains are different than everywhere else downtown. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You're talking about St. John's specifically?
Yeah, St.
Okay,
John's
okay.
Avenue, all the way down St. John's Avenue, because during the Christmas parade, we had people
Mhm.
having near accidents. So I think, I know you guys have heard, am I the only one that have heard or seen those?
No. And I
Where
thought
the-
that was all gonna be corrected during the replacement of the sidewalks, et cetera.
And I reported it to the city manager.
Yes,
Right.
those, so
And-
we're talking about some things, I understand the beautification, we're on that.
Yeah.
But those safety hazards need to be addressed first.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments about the streetscape projects?
Is that included in the streetscape?
They're gonna make sure
No.
it is.
Yes, we're going to make sure, because we're replacing all the sidewalks.
You was aware of them?
I'm sorry?
Were you aware of those hazards that I'm speaking of? I know Ms. Davis said she told the city manager. Are we?
Yes, I mean, I have been noticed all this stuff that you're talking about, and I will talk to the architect to see if he's taking care of this stuff or if not. And if he's not, we need to take care of that, definitely. I mean,
So my understanding is that there are some risks there right now
Yes.
that we need to pay attention to. I will meet with Public Works, let them be aware of it. That's independent of the streetscape project.
I do.
Well, they said that they were gonna repair them, and that's where, because it was gonna be corrected during the streetscapes.
Right.
So, wanted to make sure.
I do understand the request. Thank you.
Commissioner Bourne was on deck first. Go ahead.
Is there any way that we can make that to be on the list so we know that those things are being addressed and
I can do
reported back?
that.
Because a lot of times, when requests are put in,
Put on Public Works.
when requests are put in from the commission, or the board, or sometime the community, general community, there's no feedback in terms of next steps or where we are with the status. We need end-to-end customer service.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis?
My question is just going to be, we have a risk management officer?
We do.
Does the risk management officer go around and assess risks in the city?
That
So-
is not as you're
And
describing
I'm,
it.
I'm just, I know, and
Not
it may
as you're
not be, but
describing
it
it.
sounds like we have an opportunity.
We do. Thank you.
Thank-
Thank you.
Yeah,
Commissioner,
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do have big opportunities, and I have sent in a number of different things from insurance risk rating stuff to previous city managers and the current interim as it relates to a lot of different things across the whole city as it relates to insurance risk rating. And I hope we're continuously working on those items. And I ask that we share with the rest of this board and the commission.
thank you.
Yes, we will make sure.
Any further discussion?
Let me give
questions?
one other update on the splash pads. Is that a part of what you? Okay, so we are making progress also with the splash pads. Just wanted to put that out there. And we're still exploratory. We are receiving quotes. We are also looking at potential locations, and we're looking at the maintenance upkeep. We have already met or spoken with county to see how they're managing their splash pad. So just want you to understand we are making progress.
Okay, and I don't want to continue to beat a dead horse, but speaking on risk management, and that's a fine line when we start talking about day-to-day operations, but then the liabilities and what comes back to this board and other board and our commission. When there are potential risks and that have been identified, I think it's some kind of way that those concerns need to be disseminated to everybody so that everybody would know what those potential risks are versus one-on-one conversations and never disseminate to others and we won't know about it. So I'm requesting that occurs, and you may talk to the mayor and it goes between you two and we don't know anything, or you may talk to me about it and don't let the mayor or Commissioner Davis know anything about it. So I would like to make that request.
Yes.
If there's no privacy laws being broken, I think that we should be abreast of information that goes on when they talk about risk, because when it comes down to it, we'll all be named for any liability. Okay, so
Yes.
that's my request from legal and you, Ms. Carter.
Yes, I heard you. Our city attorney has been quite active with assisting us in that risk management area as well. So it's a combined effort with the risk manager and city attorney.
Thank you.
But we have not, as you stated, I don't think we've given you a report. So I would like to follow up on that because we do have that report. At my request, they did prepare that, so I can easily send that on.
Almost like the police department incident report. Give us the incident report. Let us know. Keep us
That too.
informed.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Soto.
Thank you. So the next one is going to be the CRA boundary expansion and community redevelopment plan update.
Right.
Yes. So back in April 2024, there was an FRP for request for proposal put out for community redevelopment area consulting services. And this was we were seeking statements for qualification from qualified firms or individuals with experience in redevelopment, neighborhood planning, revitalization, and implementation of community redevelopment areas to provide assistance in developing and implementing community redevelopment areas. And all interested parties were asked to submit proposals. So GIA is the company that was selected. And they've started conducting a finding of necessity, which is the first step for statute to do a boundary expansion for the CRA. And this is in accordance with Florida Statute 163. This study will assess the feasibility of expanding the existing community redevelopment agency. There is a map in your reports, so you can see where that district would potentially be. And this was outlined in FRP 2024-05. And on Thursday, January 16th, staff has held a kickoff meeting with the consultant team to discuss redevelopment goals, project objectives, and review the steps involved in defining a necessity, outlining the project timeline, and clarify the scope of work. We are currently in the process of providing them all of the information they've requested so they can complete their finding a necessity and any necessary data they would like from us. So, and then the other part of it, the community redevelopment plan, I'm sure you were all aware. So the last one was 2021. That is document that the CRA goes off of. Everything that is in there outlines what the CRA can do, all of the goals, objectives. And this update is going to be so great for us to have, because anything that is not included on there now that we want to include in our goals in the future, we can include those in there. So just kind of set the standard of how we want to operate moving forward. So this is really exciting stuff. I'm very excited about the community redevelopment plan update, and I'm very excited about the finding a necessity for this new district, as you can see.
So GAI is going to do the updated plan as well?
Yes.
Okay, because they did it the last time. Correct. They did. Yes, they
I
did.
thought it was a different company.
Was it
Laura,
Mr.
did you-
Jones that did it the last time? Yeah, yeah.
Right, he's the one that's sick. My understanding was that he was with another company before he
Okay.
worked on the last
I just
one.
know
Same
he was
person. Yes.
involved.
He was involved, different companies.
Okay, just asking.
He is not able to be the leader in
That's-
this particular
that's
venture.
fine.
There's another project manager that has been assigned.
Yes,
Okay,
and
I
they're-
just
they were
wanted to be
wonderful.
clear in my head. And I also saw some mention here of merging the TIF districts into one.
So that is something they have found in their findings, but of course, that's gonna be in the finding of necessity. They will discuss all of that. That was something that they brought up, and that would be a recommendation on their end that they may propose once finishing their finding of necessity. What I can speak to on that is, in our meeting, they asked, why are they all separate? And we all expressed that that's how it's always been. And they said, you can absolutely keep it that way. That's no problem. Everywhere is different. Different CRAs operate differently. One thing that they did say, which was, I believe, an excellent point, was if we decide to create this new district, it's going to take at least 10 years for them to start generating some funds to be used. If we were to combine them, and I'm nervous when I say this, but if we were to combine them, we'd be able to spread the wealth a little bit, and it would allow that district to start making money right away, to start making those revitalization improvements. Instead of waiting another 10 years, we can really make a difference in North Palatka.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. I think some of the residents in the existing three TIF districts will have a little angst
course.
about that,
Of
so,
course.
but we'll see.
We're all unpolite.
I know.
I agree, yes.
I'm just saying,
The whole goal is,
made some angst. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I just made a statement. When you had something to say again, go ahead. Besides that, you were ready to talk?
Not really.
Okay. Anybody
okay.
else have any questions or comments?
I think the one Palatka thing looked really good with combining all
That's
the
right.
districts, the new district coming in. Instead
Based
of
off
waiting
the
10
knowledge.
years. Yeah.
Yes, based off the knowledge I have at this point, I would agree, but I would love to see this finding a necessity, and I feel like we would all be able to make an
I think
educated
we need to
decision
see
once we
that
see that.
first.
So did they ever meet? I know we had a meeting set up at one point and we never.
That's what they were
Okay.
talking about.
I'm not sure.
Do you mind explaining? I'm sorry.
No, we was talking about you were talking about the fourth district, but
Yes.
we'll complete this business, but I'll
Okay,
finish up with that.
Okay.
so that was just
Not
our
started.
update.
That's
Yes.
it? Okay, thank
all I
you for
have.
everything, for all your
Thank
updates.
you.
Ms. Cardy, financial report for the quarter ending December 31st, 2024.
Commissioners, hello, everyone that's here. The financial report for the CRA for the quarter ended December 2024. As of the end of December, we had actually received the 538,000 from, or would be receiving shortly, 538,000 from the county. So that represents a good portion of the 964,000 that we expect to receive. We do expect to receive the rest of the money by the end of this month, February or before. On page number 2, we have very little expenses, only $1,418. And we have transfers over into Better Place for the streetscape, the potable, and the reimbursements for the administrative expense. So at this point of that 538,000, 250,000 has been spent so far or allocated for spending in the downtown district. In the South Historic, we've only spent or transferred 13,000. And the budget is 517,000. So South Historic, we have not spent much money at all as of the end of December. And then finally, North Historic, we've only spent 1,923. So our expectation is that in the second quarter, you will start seeing more expenditures. And for instance, just the sheer fact that tonight we dealt with the building improvement grant, those kind of expenses will now be reflected in that second quarter. So for the entire 3 districts, We spent a total of 200 on page 4, 265,627. What that means is that our revenues and our excess revenues at this point is 272,422. So our goal is to, with our new CRA coordinator and some of the initiatives that we're bringing to you tonight, we expect the CRA to operate much more efficiently and effectively. And we appreciate your support. Any questions,
Any
please?
questions?
No, just thanks, Kristen, for coming on board. You're doing an awesome job.
Thank you. Mr. Paul? Small Business Development Center report?
Paul grew a beard for waiting so long.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, staff, good evening. Those chairs are not meant for sitting long periods of time. A little bit of update. Last year, and probably the previous CRA meeting, I talked about working on about $10 million worth of projects. And at that point, I had 3.2 million in people who got approved for loans. That's now increased a little bit because when people fill out end of year surveys and stuff, so that's up to 3.5 million at this point, which is about 35% of the projects that are worked on, and that is probably about 20% too low. And I believe that's mostly due to underreporting. So that's some of the news there. The good news is I'm already up to 700,000 for this first couple of months of this year in trying to get things going. A couple of other items in here. I currently am running a series of workshops in Hastings. This was a combination deal between St. Johns County Small Business Development Center and Putnam County Small Business Development Center. I'm proud to say that we've had our first meeting and we had a really good turnout for this series, 22 folks. However, the sort of bad news of that is only 10% of them came from Putnam County. So I don't have a marketing budget. As far as I know, there wasn't any sort of posting anywhere in like the city newsletter about the workshops. I'm holding them for you guys and
I saw,
for
yeah, I saw it.
you
And
saw
I
it?
shared it.
Okay.
For what that's worth.
Okay, I didn't see it, and it would be very helpful as a partner to have access or get the SBDC on the website as well as the newsletters to help get the word out there.
May I address? May I respond?
Please.
We have begun initiating being more collaborative with you, and Christian has been working recently with Peter. So if you can explain what our plans are to help.
So, yes, we met, I believe about a week ago. We had a wonderful meeting. He updated me about all of the great things that they are doing. And one thing he brought up was the marketing. Since then, same day, I met with Peter and he said, absolutely, let's do this. We're gonna make sure that gets posted as much as possible. I will follow up with him and make sure that is done, as well as updating our CRA website to make sure that anytime that these happen, that we are posting them, because this is coming out of our CRA budget. We are paying for his services. We need to make sure that we are getting the most out of it, not only for ourselves, but for our business owners. Because a lot of the concerns, Mr. Deputy, so nice that he took me to a lot of the businesses a few weeks ago and just chatting with them about a lot of the concerns. You have a lot of the solutions for those. So I really want to take this on and make sure that we are getting the most out of it for our business owners.
And so that includes that we'll be mailing out his information as soon as you give it to us. We will mass email it and additionally have you on the website and inclusive of the newsletter as well. So you,
That would be fantastic.
yes, sir. We are partners. Okay.
But I don't see our name on this flyer. Doesn't say City of Palatka, just FYI.
Or the CRA and.
Or the CIA 9.
So we'll correct that. You need to correct that.
Yeah.
This is a different than my normal. Here's one of the normal ones I'll show you, and it has all of that information on here. This one was put on by St. Johns County Putnam County and then the St. Johns County School Board, primarily.
But I think when you were asking if we were sharing it and publicizing it,
Yeah.
then it's.
That would be
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, it would have been
Yes.
nice to have, yeah, I think that's Commissioner Jones's point. You said we didn't share and then we didn't do a good job at that, but I think that was his point.
I get it. This was a one-off flyer versus our normal flyer.
Yeah, no, we get that too, but you did bring it up, so. Yeah. That's how it goes here.
All right, other things coming up. I don't have the flyer yet for that one, but yes, you guys are on the bottom of that. flyer. Typical
Okay,
flyer.
good job.
That will be AI in marketing. So that will be put on by a Chamber of Commerce member here in Putnam County. And it's free. It will be at the Chamber of Commerce on March 11th from 5:30 to 6:30. Fantastic tool for small business owners. So that's an upcoming workshop. Lots of kudos to go around. Number one, Kristen, thank you so much. It's wonderful to work with you. I really look forward to it. Other kudos are going on. I'm hearing great things because I'm hearing a lot of city and county working together to solve issues. So I love to hear that. And I'm also very much in favor of the bike patrols downtown. So that will help with the small business community down there. So with that being said, are there any questions for Small Business Development Center?
It looks like none. Commissioner Campbell, any questions? Is he still
I
there?
think he dropped off.
I thought he dropped off too, but I wasn't sure because I couldn't see. We had the screen on there. Good things. I haven't asked him in a while. And do we have, I think we're all set, Mr. Paul?
Thank you so much.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second, third.
Do you have a question?
I was just gonna thank Kristen for her first meeting and to say that I can see a difference already since you've been here. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I concur. Thank you.
Great job.
I do too, Kristen. we'll give you a hard time, but I know you work hard.
Thank you so much.
So
We'll give
what?
you a hard time.
You already know.
He'll
Oh,
give
it's
you a hard
recorded. We're
time.
good. Well, thank you all so much. I'm so excited to be a part of this team. Thank you.
Before we adjourn this meeting, there's a catch that I did make, that I mentioned about the receipts. We've already approved those allocations. But there were more than one receipt that said work hadn't been done. On that same property.
Can I follow up? Because I was going to just follow up to say that I believe when you explained the process, it addressed it. In other words, once we grant, they still have to meet requirements to get the check.
Absolutely.
And so that's where I think we'll be able to address that.
So the 50% is only gonna be awarded what has been paid.
Yes. What is being paid only. And the other thing is, it'll only be for work done 30 days after the city started, or we did not do our part. 30-day grace period that we had that we did not follow through
Right.
on. Only work that has been paid for and completed as defined in their scope of
But there
work.
are estimates in there and it clearly states that the work
But
has
that's
not been
historically how
done.
it's been done.
Yes.
As somebody who
I just-
received
I
the
just wanna
grant
make sure.
several years ago, that's historically how it's been
Yes.
done. You
Yeah,
don't
I-
get any money till you produce. your
It's an
receipt,
18-month
paid.
grant period, so they have that time, but that's something that Ms. West and I will talk about, because in our opinion, at least Ms. Cardy and I's, is that if you started in September or in November, excuse me, then that should eat into your 18 months. You shouldn't, that's not fair to the people that were awarded before.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we had a motion to adjourn.